Hello, and welcome to the Old Farm Bus Podcast. This is the back of the bus session.
Hello and welcome to the Old Farm Bus Back of the Bus Sessions podcast. Today I've got an absolutely fantastic guest. Do you know how I know he's fantastic? Because before this podcast, I think 2 hours, we've been chatting our little faces off, and I must say I've made a genuine new friend today. I love this guy. I'm going to welcome him straight on. Ali West. Yeah.
Boom, boom, boom. Blessings. Thank you.
Dude.
Thank you for having me. And
This
yes,
has
we
been-
did have a epic chat that we probably should have recorded. But hey. Hopefully we'll have another
It's
epic
happened
chat now.
Can you imagine we're just really shit now? Just stuttering. So what do you think to the world? But honestly, I've really enjoyed this encounter, meeting of minds. I think you're a fantastic human. When I started doing a podcast, and you do your own podcast, what's it called?
The Kenetik Fitness show.
Like it. When I started, I had this idea in mind where I'm going to get a guest on, and then I build them up. I talk about all their accolades, all their achievements, what they've been up to in life. But I used to hash it up. And then that's the start of the podcast. And I'm like, oh, fuck, we're out now. I've just ruined it. So what I let the guests do is sort of tell them a bit about who they are, what they're about. And I think you do that on your podcast as well, don't you?
Yeah.
So
Always at the start, yeah.
let's go, baby. I think I know a fair bit about you myself, but I want the audience to know who you are and what you're about.
Where do you start?
Yeah,
Where do
you
start?
really. Let's go to the womb.
I just find that an interesting question, because usually when you get asked, well, who are you? What do you do? And you automatically revert to, well, your job title, or I'm 28, I'm from Leicester, or whatever. That's how it goes. So when you say, who are you? What do you do? What are you about? I think I'm always learning. You're always trying to learn what the truest self is. And I'm learning that the truest self, it never really changes from the day you come out of the womb to the day you leave this earth. The true self never changes. So who am I? It's an interesting question.
So
But
it's a big question.
Yeah, it's a big question, because you could go down so many avenues with that, and you could pick it apart. But I think the more I learn about myself and the more I do the work, you could say, I'm just learning that I'm on this purpose and this path of helping people or inspiring people to live longer, healthier, happier, and more joyful lives, and live more fulfilled lives, so that they can be the fullest and best version of themselves. I feel that that's what I'm here to do. So that's what I do my very best to do on a daily basis. I've got a whole backstory. I mean, my whole life for the last 13 years has been health and well-being, health and fitness, personal training, coaching, that kind of stuff. And if I look back at my life, I've had these points, and we all have them. We can all take a look back and see these points through our lives where things have changed and things have shifted, and I can tick them off or mark them off in my timeline where big shifts have happened, and we can dig into some of these today if you want to. And I feel as if I'm going through that at the moment. I'm having another big shift where I'm doing some work, deep work on myself, and maybe moving into a different path from a career perspective. But yeah, the last 13 years have been all about health, fitness, well-being, helping people to get in the best shape of their lives. And then since 2015, it's been a very much of a shift towards more spiritual well-being, holistic well-being, and looking things at a deeper level rather than just the body and just nutrition. And now I say that I integrate mind, body, and spirit. And I feel to be the best version of yourself and to be the best human being, you need to be optimally healthy in your mind, your body, and your spirit. So that's kind of what I'm about, and that's what I push. But there's loads of different stories which we can get into. Yeah, there's loads of things. But I just don't want to sit here and just say, well, I do this and this is what I do from a career perspective, because I could sit here and say, yeah, I own a gym. I own a 9,000 square foot gym in Nottingham called the Kenetik Fitness. I have a podcast called the Kenetik Fitness Show. I do all of that, but that's just what I do on a day to day. It doesn't kind of define who I really am. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. I was just wondering, when you would meet people before, would that be how you go about labeling yourself?
Because I'm a massive networker. Like, I'm a serial networker. I like
Same.
getting out, meeting people, making connections. And I'd walk up to people and be like, well, what do you do? Well, I'm a personal trainer and da-da-da. And then I was like, it's just boring. No one gives a fuck. No one cares about that. They want to know about you. So now I just say maybe weird shit. They'll be like, oh, well, what do you do? And I'll be just like, avocado or something like that. Just mix it up and just be like, what do you mean? I'm like, what, have you had an avocado, what they like, that kind of thing? Or do you know what I mean? Or help people get in the best shape of their life. It's a bit better than saying I'm a PT or whatever. And as I said, I'm kind of moving away from personal training and that fitness element, and I'm kind of doing this shift. This is what I'm doing a lot of work on at the moment, is being aligned with what I'm truly passionate about and being aligned with who I really am and sharing that with the world as well, because we've all got gifts that we can share. And it's the time for me to do that. Not that I haven't been, but I'm gonna do it in probably a bigger and a more aligned and more authentic way.
I think from that bit of dialogue there, you've explained the whole movie Soul. Have you watched that?
Yeah.
Dude, 100% though, isn't it?
Yes, it's wicked.
Before Soul, there was Habbo Hotel. Can you remember that days? And Sims. But it is, you've got these character profiles. They walk together in a certain way. You meet them. Oh, what's your job? What's your responsibility? And that's sort of just this contrived, built-up attitude of how people are now. So it's like a simulation. It's like a game. This is who I am. And to see a film like Soul come out, to dissect that to young people and children and say, you're so much more than that. When you're walking down the street and you're in nature, you're going and seeing your friends, you're a part of being sad sometimes, you're a part of losing somebody, you're everything. That is all you. And to help people discover that about them, I love to hear that that's where your journey's transcended and built. It was at first maybe to help them get good aesthetics and develop that about them, but as your mind's built, you're thinking, I want to take people on this path with me and this journey. And I just love that it's more of a commonality now. It seems to be where the world's turning. From particularly the people I'm meeting, it's a focus on helping others develop the best versions of themselves, and that is more than just your job or just how good you look or whatever it is. It's not just face value anymore, and I applaud that of you. When you were a kid, was that a part of you? Have you always had like a lovely essence about you? You wanted to help people, you were smiley, friendly, and wanted to do good in the world? Or is that?
I think so, yeah. I think the more, again, I've learned about myself, I think I'm very much an old soul. I think of going back to soul. I think if you, regardless of what you believe in, I believe we live multiple lives and our soul is eternal and infinite, and we come back just in a different vessel. That's what I personally believe, and each to their own with their beliefs on that. I think I've probably led multiple lives. I think I'm very wise. I'm only 34 years young, but I feel as if I'm wise and I have that wisdom, but I feel as if I've had that from a young age as well. So my mum always says to me, well, you could hold a full-blown conversation with an adult when you was like 2 or 3 years old, which is kind of crazy really when you think about it. And I'd always want to pick things up, to learn things, and also how can I give my skills, expertise, gifts to another individual to help them. I think I've had that from a very young age. But we was talking about this before we started recording. I was quite shy as a youngster. I could always speak to people, and as soon as I got to know them, I'd just open up. But I wasn't one of them people that would like go and dive in on a conversation or be really, really chatty. I was quite very kind of shy and reserved. And then when I went to secondary school, I had to come out of my shell because my parents sent me to a school where I didn't know anyone, which was a bit mental. So I had to come out of my shell. I had to be a bit more outgoing, learn new skills. And now the work that I'm doing now, I've realised that what happened was I became a bit of as my psychologist that I'm working with puts it, I became a chameleon. So I started putting on these different personas and these different acts, maybe you could say, in air quotes, that allowed me to fit in with different groups. So one minute I could be with the cool kids, the popular kids, and kicking it with them, and the next minute you'd see me sat with the geeks and I could converse with them. Is that are we allowed to say geeks? Anyway, the
Get
clever
out.
kids, the clever kids. Yeah. So and people like, and then the cool kids would be like, well, why are you sitting over there with them? And then the geeks would be like, well, why are you over them? You're so much better than that. And there's kind of, I could mix with different groups, and you might think that chameleon thing is maybe a negative trait or a bad thing, but I think it's allowed me to excel in the career that I've chosen of coaching and of personal training people, and ultimately running my own businesses, because I can converse and talk with people from all walks of life. And I've been very blessed to be quite streetwise growing up, and feather that into my day-to-day life of, okay, I've got that streetwise background, but I've got a decent education and I mix with different groups. And it's allowed me to work with very different people and varied people, which has allowed me to grow personally as well. So I've worked with oldest client like 80 years old, youngest client 11. Do you know what I mean? So I've had, and they're from all walks of life. So yeah, I mean, I can't even remember what your original question was, but was I like this from a young age? I've always wanted to help people. Yeah, I think I have. I could have answered it just like that.
Please don't know. We're doing a podcast,
Yeah,
so
I've
if
always
I ask
had
a
it in
question,
there,
you just go,
I've just, it's just come out as I've got older. I've always wanted to help people. But this is the key point I wanted to make off the back of that. I get this off my mum as well. I think I've always wanted to help other people, probably before I've wanted to help myself, or I have helped myself. And since 2015, when I had this, and again in air quotes, spiritual awakening, which we can go into if you want to, since then I've realized that the most critical thing you can do is work on yourself first. It's the most important thing, not just for me, for you, and for everyone that's watching this and is going to listen to this. The best thing you can do for yourself is work on yourself first, and then ultimately, which will lead into loving yourself. And when you've got that, when you're working on yourself and when you're loving yourself, you can help everyone else more effectively and more efficiently and in the best possible way, from your fullest self, from your fullest being. And I think the problem is, and I had this problem for 27 years, putting everyone else before myself. Everyone else. Help them. How can I help them? How can I make them better? And I wasn't looking after myself. I wasn't focusing on doing the work or being healthy or all of that kind of stuff. I was fit as fuck, but I wasn't healthy. And when I started to make that shift to working on myself, everything in my life is accelerated. And then when you say that to people, I did a post about this, you might have seen it yesterday or the day before. I said, the instant reaction is people say, well, that's selfish. You're being selfish because you're only thinking about yourself. I'm going to swear it's bullshit. It's absolute bullshit. It's the most selfless act you can do is work on yourself. It's the most selfless thing you can do. Because just think about it. Just ask yourself the question. If everyone worked on themselves first and looked after themselves and stepped into their fullest self, would the world be a better place?
yes.
1,000,000%. And I'll tag on the end of this is that I don't think the world's a bad place anyway. I think the world's an amazing place. I think it's a very kind of small section of people that are maybe bringing the vibration of the planet down. But on the whole, I think 99% of people are great people. But we could take it up that 1% and we could make everything better, every area of life better, by just focusing on ourselves first.
It does. It emanates out. You know, you can do this in a micro vision, where you think of you in your household when you're in a low vibration, low frequency, putting out bad energy. How's your daughter feeling? How's your son feeling? How's your wife feeling? How's your family feeling? The second you get out of bed and you're going, no, I love myself today. I'm going to be a happy version of myself today. Let's put on the good shoes, the dancing shoes. How's everyone feeling around you? And even if they take a bit of time to come round, you're still giving out good vibration. You're still giving out good energy. And it's only got to be to that micro level where you understand it on a macro level, pumping that out into society. I bet you've heard of that experiment they did in
Maharishi effect.
Yes, yeah. Meditated on positive thought, and the crime rate halved in this certain town. They've
done loads of studies like that. I mean, Dr. Inamoto with the water. Have you seen that? Where he's speaking to the water and the water changes its like molecular structure by speaking positively or speaking negatively through it. They've done it with...
seen it on rice.
Yeah, they've done it with athletes as well. They did a study with I want to say it's, don't hold me to this, but I think it was an American football team, and they had like 3 groups. One group, I think they were doing bench press, so it was bench press. One group, as they were bench pressing, they're saying all positive stuff to themselves, like I'm strong, I'm powerful, I'm amazing, all that kind of stuff. Another group saying negative stuff to themselves as they're doing the bench press, like I'm a piece of shit, all that kind of stuff. And then another group that just didn't really do anything, just did it. And the group that said the positive affirmations themselves, they like increased their load of like a ridiculous amount. It was like 30% or something bonkers like that, like really pushed loads more weight. The group that said negative stuff to themselves had a decline in strength. So from the 1 rep max originally, it went down, and then the ones that said nothing, they were just like kind of on a like an even keel. They didn't make much improvements at all. So just by what you're saying to yourself, you're changing your whole output of everything. It's bonkers. It's absolutely bonkers, and that's been proven now at a cellular level.
Yes.
So you can impact your cells by what's coming out of your mouth or what you're thinking in your head.
And I'm glad this is taken away from what people classify as woo-woo science now, and it's going, no, we're looking at the why behind this, and we're making more studies, more advances, more experiments on why this is the case. And I just feel, if you don't want to believe in the book, The Secret, what's that all about?
It's like the law of attraction.
The law of attraction.
Yeah.
If you don't want to believe in what people classify as the woo-woo behind it, why don't you just try it out, though? Because living in that way is going to transform your life anyway. So you don't have to go into the understanding route of it, but just try it. And it might literally eradicate all those problems you're facing at the minute. So I think it's definitely worth venturing down the paths of. And one thing that I wanted to go back into in your story, though, was the chameleon side, because I know where this podcast's going. It's going to be tangents, it's going to be everywhere, and I love it, and that's what I want.
Yeah.
When I put a question forward, feel free to just do anything you want to do with it. But the chameleon thing I'm very interested by, because that's me, 100%. The reason I think it built was I was very bullied, though, as a kid.
Yeah, that's where it comes from, trauma.
I wonder, So I was going to say, if you could just go into the meat and psychoanalyze a bit more of that part of your life, could you do that for me?
Yeah, for sure. And I'll start it off by saying that I'm no psychologist, I'm no neuroscientist. I can only speak from my perspective and what's happened in my life and the stuff that I've learned about myself very, very recently with a lot of it. And yeah, I mean, mine very similar. I was bullied at junior school. Then when I went to secondary school, I turned the other way and I became the bully.
Right.
My brother and I, he's 3 years younger than me. We used to beat the shit out of each other, fighting. I'm talking proper.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not talking like a little bit of scrapping.
Slap on the head.
It was sticks, irons, bottles, coat hangers, anything you could get your hands on, we'd hit each other with. And I don't know, there might be a little bit of guilt I feel about it now, and we're still working on that, and that's the way it is. But yeah, so people don't realize these things that happen usually between 0 and 7, they have a huge impact on the rest of your life. And that's when we're learning, that's when we're picking up things, that's when we're our most malleable. And these little, they don't have to be big traumas as well. This is what the lady I'm working with has taught me, is that it can be just micro traumas. It's not like you've been abused or whatever. It can just be little things. And with me, it was bullying, but then also my parents arguing and stuff. And I didn't feel as if I could really express my anger or anything. So how did I express it? I expressed it by fighting with my brother or chucking things across the room or whatever, because I wasn't heard, or I didn't feel as if I was heard. So I'd retreat back into my shell. And then we're getting onto a whole other thing, because we're getting into astrology, because I'm a Cancer and I'm a Cancer rising. So I'm very, if it's not going my way or I feel a bit threatened, I'll just retreat into my shell and I'll just like curl up, and that's how I operate. So yeah, I think these little things that happen as you're a youngster, they have a massive impact, and you bury them deep, and you don't remember them, and you forget about them until maybe you do some work, or you do a meditation, or you're journaling or whatever, and it like comes up, and then a memory's linked, and you're like, fucking hell, I've not thought about that for 25 years.
Wow.
But it's still there, and it'll play out in your adult life, and people don't realize this. So anything that happens, your relationship with your partner or your siblings or your parents or your colleagues, it'll play out in that adult life from the traumas that you've gone through as a youngster. And this is a huge part of human psychology, and I'm only just starting to learn about it now, and all these things that have affected me. So I went into that chameleon state through not being heard or not feeling like I could express myself. So the way that I would express myself is I'd drop into, oh well, I'm Ali the gangster now, or I'm Ali the geek, or I'm Ali the person that can converse with old people. Or so I'd switch to these different personas, these different profiles, because that's how I could be heard. But I wasn't being heard as Ali West, as the truest version of myself. So now what I'm learning to do is like, right, let's find the true version, let's stand in your power. And this is like so empowering for me, because I was scared of this stuff, really scared. I hate confrontation. I'm too hard on myself. I have been known to be hard on myself. I've been known to be a master procrastinator, all of this stuff. But you've got to realize where it's coming from, and also you've got to do something about it. You can't just say that, oh well, that's the way I am. I'm because it's not. It's not who you really are. And when you get aligned with that, and you really start to stand in that truest self and that truest power, oh my God, it's like, it's life changing. And it's empowering. And I've had lots of things in the last 6 to 8 weeks where I've been aware, and this is another thing where, again, we can go into self-awareness, but I've been aware of those kind of old patterns, those old habits, and I've stopped myself, and I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to act as my truest self. And it just feels amazing. And I used to be worried about it, be like, oh, well, what's he going to think of me, and what's she going to think of me? That's their shit. Yeah. That's not mine. I can only handle it with love and compassion, and with strength, and with grace, and with ease. And if they've still got a problem about it, then I've let it go. It's their problem. It's not mine, because that's going into their own micro and macro traumas and their shit.
But you got your shield on.
Yeah. So it's just amazing, and I'm still learning, still growing. But yeah, that's kind of how that chameleon aspect came about. And then there's another thing that tags onto this is disassociation. So I was disassociating with my truest self, with who I am. I wasn't, for a long time, being who I thought other people thought I should be. Like, oh, well, that's Ali, that's how he should be. And okay, that's how I've got to act.
Have you heard that quote on that? It's, you're not who you think you are. You're who you think they think you are. Fucking hell, when you get that. When you understand that, it's a powerful moment. Yeah.
And it's true, and we're always doing it, and we do it on social media. We're trying to paint these pictures, and we're trying to be like X, Y, and Z, and oh well, I think if I do this or look this way, then this person's gonna like me or love me or appreciate me. And no, just be your truest self. But that's hard, because a lot of us don't know who we are, and even now maybe I'm still learning. But that's the whole point.
Yeah, I was going to say, I hope you are.
That's life. That's what I truly believe, is we're here to grow every single day. Like, you put on this earth to grow and grow and grow and grow and grow. So when you leave it, and then if you do come back, or when you come back, you've leveled up.
Yeah.
So it's like a computer game.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, I'm on level 1 now. I'll do this, this, and this. I'll get this skill or this attribute or this coin or whatever it is. And then you go on to, oh, I'm on level 2 now. So just see life as like a game of COD or a game of Sonic, bloody hell. Show my age there on a Sonic or Mario or whatever. But so treat it like that. So like, yeah, okay, I've started learning about my trauma as a kid. It's like when Mario gets a coin or eats a mushroom, on to the next level. So I'm growing. And why do people not want to grow? And why do people just like meander through life? Because it's fucking hard.
Yeah. And see it with infinite levels to it as well. A thing, I might be a really good fisherman. I might love fishing. I've never really give it a go, but it's not just the fishing. It's the attributes that it takes to go into the fishing. it means I really like calm. I'm just there, I'm vibing, I've got a bit of music on. Oh, this is a part of my nature, part of my psyche I didn't know about myself. Do you know what I mean? It's when you go and do a thing, it's not just attaching yourself to that part of it, like, oh, I'm a boxer, I'm a fisherman, I'm a whatever. It's all the things you like about that thing, the traits behind it. Oh, the reason I like boxing, not just because I want to punch people in the face, but I love the amount that it takes to become a good boxer. I love the tenacity you've got to put into this sport. I love the fact that you've got to be willing and disciplined and all them things behind it. That's a part of your character. Add that to your armour. And that, I love that quote, the only thing's constant is change. It's forever going to be changing. You don't always have to be that tenacious, crazy, wild character. Develop in time and allow that fisherman side to come through. And that's everything you're saying there. It's just a constant. And that is the...
Everything's cyclical, isn't it?
It's
Everything
the journey
goes
of life.
Cycles and changes. That's just...
And it is the beauty of life. What am I going to be today? What am I going to be next month, next year? I really don't know, but I'm so excited to see that version of myself. And I know, that self-awareness thing that we're going to say so many times on this podcast, it's having a constant self-awareness of, I'm not really vibing this skin that I'm in at the minute. I'm not really vibing this armour that I've built up. But because we've built such a strong attachment to this is who I am, and you've identified yourself as that, you've become trapped in that. But as soon as you've got a self-awareness of, I'm not vibing it, I can move on now, use that as a power. Make it exciting. Make your life build through that. So I love everything you're about, mate. This is going to be a friendship for forevermore. Who sorted this podcast out for us? It was Alex, wasn't it?
Yeah.
She watches your podcast.
Yeah, this is the beauty of... We spoke heavily before we started recording about social media and how it can be toxic, but this is the beauty of social media. I mean, somebody that I've only spoken to through Instagram, never met her before in my life, but she listens to my show, listens to yours, has obviously seen there'll be some synergy, and introduced us, and there we're here now. But there's no coincidences. I don't believe in coincidences. Everything happens.
Say it
as is.
Oh, even better. I thought you were going for a reason, and you took it further. So it's a psychologist you're working with, not a therapist.
Yeah, not a therapist. So I said this to you before. First session, she sat down with me and she said, "I'm gonna tell you straight, this isn't therapy. This is positive psychology." Because I went to it I felt a bit stuck with what I'm doing with my career, again with like alignment of what I was doing. And so she's helping me with that, to find like almost like my true calling, what I'm going to probably do for the rest of my life.
Was that a pivotal moment when you decided to find her number, pick up the phone? Was it a day where you'd gone to the office and thought, I fucking don't know what to do? Or was it a bit of a breakdown in time where you went, do you know what, I need help with this?
I've got you. Combination. So I've always worked well with having a coach or a guide or a teacher, however you want to call it. And again, you can look back through my life. This teacher really helped me. This coach really helped me. This business coach really helped me. I've had these moments working with people. And this is another thing. I'll say this to everyone that's going to listen to this and watch it. If you need help, get it. If you need to reach out, you can't do everything on your own. So if you got a bad back, go and see a chiropractor or whatever. Like, get help. Don't just sit in the pain. If you're having mental health issues, get some help, like from a therapist or whatever. If you need to lose weight, give me a bell. Do you know what I mean? That kind of stuff. If you need help, get help. So I've not been too proud to ask for help. I've always asked for help when I needed it. And I've had some amazing coaches, probably had a couple of shit ones as well, but I've had some amazing coaches that have really, really helped me. But how I got onto this stage of working with this particular lady, she came on my podcast way back when I kind of first started out. And just very much like our relationship today, when you know, when you meet someone, and sometimes before they even open their mouth, you just resonate, and you've just got that vibe. You can see the aura, however you want to label it up. And we just hit it off straight away. And I was like kind of sussing her out. I was like, you're a spiritual lady, aren't you? And she's like, yeah. And she's like, I lucid dream, I can astral project and all this kind of stuff. I was like, yes, you're the kind of person I want to talk to. And she's actually a lecturer at NTU, and she's also does criminology. So she's like worked with, some real bad sick people from a psychology perspective of being a psychologist for criminals. So yeah, we got chatting, we did a wicked podcast, kept in touch, and then I was like, I want you to come back on the show. This was just recent. So I went to see her at a place, set all the stuff up like we've got now, just got chatting, didn't start recording, and what was meant to be a podcast just turned into like a session. At the time I thought it was therapy, and she's always said to me, I'm not a therapist, but it felt like therapy. And after about an hour and a half, I'm not on the books or anything for this, it's just a chat. And after an hour and a half, I've just gone crying, burst out into tears. She's brought all this, just through questioning and back and forth, brought all this stuff up from my childhood. And I'm a goner, just like, and she's just like holding me, like, she's like, just let it go, let it go, let it go. And I was like, fucking hell, that was amazing. And then I kept having these dips, this year and a bit last year as well. I kept having these dips where I got in a real like kind of negative mindset, negative spiral, putting myself down, and also to the point which I've never experienced before, like almost like a bit of nihilism, like what's the fucking point? Why am I doing this? Why am I putting all this graft in and I'm not getting the rewards? And I thought this got to come to a head. So recently, a couple of months ago, I just reached out to her and I said, look, I think I need to work with you. And then she like told me the prices, and I nearly had a heart attack and stuff. But I thought, do you know what? I'm going to value this so much, and I'm going to get so much out of it, that I'm just going to bite the bullet and just do it. And I've always been like that. And I had a total up recently how much I've spent on my own self-development and my own growth. And when I got to 50k, I just stopped, because I was like, I've put a lot of money into myself to and people might think, well, that's fucking mental, but I just want to grow and like develop. And as I said, there's people out there that are smarter than you and can help you more effectively that you can help yourself. But here's the caveat to it, and here's the kind of double-edged sword, is like all the answers are within. So all that personal help you do is get the answers out of yourself. They're not some kind of magician or god or wizard or whatever. They're just helping you to unlock the stuff that's already inside of you. All the answers are right inside. They always have, they always will be, and they always are.
I think it's like the first 8 pages of the Power of Now book, isn't it?
Oh, okay.
He does that little fable about the homeless man, and he's sat on the box.
Got you, yeah.
And he's always asking out for money. Have you got anything? Got anything? And the guy comes past and he says, well, no, I've not actually got any money on me today. I'm really sorry. But just out of interest, what is in that box? And then he goes, well, I don't know, I just sit on it. He said, well, just stand up. I've seen a box like that before. And he lifts it up for him. It's got a massive treasure inside. It's always been sat on it, just looking outwards.
Same as have you read The Alchemist?
Yeah.
So at the end of that, the treasure's like right in his
100%.
hometown or whatever. Yeah.
Got to go through the old of that book though to get there.
Yeah. Amazing book though. Probably one of the
100%.
best books you can read. So yeah, I just reached out to her and got on board, and it's just in the last 6 to 8 weeks I've been working with her, it's just making a huge difference. And now I'm kind of right. This is where I want to be. This is what I want to do. This is where I want to live. This is the life I want to create, and all of that kind of stuff. And it's this is what I want to do, is what we're doing now. Is public speaking, is being in front of people, is being more, I'd say, of a presenter and a teacher rather than a coach. Because I've always seen myself as a coach and a trainer, but I don't think that's what I really am. I'll be brutally honest with myself. I might be putting myself down, but I don't think I'm that good at it. I think I'm better at teaching and presenting and putting my points across so people can kind of pick it apart and dissect it in their own time, rather than coaching. I think it's a real hard skill, and to be a top level coach you have to have some really good attributes, and some that I think maybe I'm lacking or I'm missing. So I don't think my calling is to be a coach or a trainer, but I must be half decent at it because I've done it for 13 years. So there you go. So she's helping me with that. So this is what I see myself doing, is speaking and putting my wisdom and sharing my wisdom with the world. And what that looks like, I'm still figuring those facets out, but I'm on the journey, and I love the journey. Right. And that's the whole point. The process is the most important thing, and it's the key thing. Have you
given a talk before? Have you been anywhere and delivered a talk?
So this is when I knew that this is for me, is because she started again unpicking stuff from childhood, and I remember it clear as day. I was 10 years old, and at school, junior school, you had to do something called a speech. Did you have to do this? A speech where you stood up in front of the class and do a speech. And I did my speech on sharks. And when I was a kid, if anyone came up to me and said, what do you want to be as when you grow up or get older? Most people are like policeman, postman, whatever. I was like, I want to be a marine biologist. People are like, what the fuck's a marine biologist? But I was like fascinated with the water, with sharks and all that. And I did this presentation on sharks. And I remember my teacher calling up my parents and saying, it's the best speech I've seen from a child of that age. And I was just like, yeah, buzzing. And my mum and dad were like, well done. And I just loved it. And then kind of going into secondary school, I don't know whether it got sucked out of me or whether I want to be with the cool kids, and I didn't really do much of it. And then when I started running my own PT business, which was 2011, I knew nothing about business, and someone's like, public speaking and getting to networking groups is going to be one of the best ways for you to grow your business. So again, I just had to dive into it, but I loved it. So whenever there was a chance to do a 10-minute speech or presentation, I'd be up there doing it. Loved it. I've presented to some big brands like Siemens, Coca-Cola, Capital One, and gone in there and done like lunch and learn type seminars. So that's what I want to do more of, because I love it and I'm passionate about it, but also I know I can get paid for it. So that's like kind of that ikigai model or whatever. So I that's what I want to do. That's what I'm really passionate about. And I love the podcasting. I love doing this. I love having conversations. So ultimately that's what I see myself doing. And then I know that will feather out into other avenues. So yeah, that's kind of the story behind it, getting the help and doing the work.
It's absolutely awesome.
But I've done it loads of times through my life with business. I knew nothing about it. So what did I do? Paid $7,500 to do a business coaching course. In 2019, our gym was a bit on its arse pretty much, and we didn't really have much identity with what we were doing. Spoke to a business coach. He kind of restructured the business and the systems, helped us do that. So I've had these stages. 2016, I had like in air quotes, life coach that, took me to the next level. So I've had these moments, and I feel, when you know it's the time to do it. It's like we were having a little chat about psychedelics. I feel like when you know it's time to do that, or do the medicine, or take whatever, So for me, it's the right time to be working with this lady. It's to get this help that I need. But as I said, ultimately, all the answers are inside. You just need to unlock them.
When she had you like flooding with tears, you never had a moment like that. Then was that?
I've had moments like it, but I felt as if it was a real breakthrough moment where I realised that
sounded like
there's some shit in here that needs
a
to come
release out. And a relief though, and I suppose, but quite a conscious one. You knew it was for a purpose and for a reason, and it broke through a door. Well, I've cried floods of tears before, been beaten up or bullied or just hated my life, depressed. You have these floods of tears, but you don't know where they're coming from, why they're coming from. And that one feels a little bit more purposeful and poignant. This is Mikey Markham brain right now, skittish. But yeah, go into that a little bit if you can, that moment. Was it different from just crying your eyes out in the past?
Do you know what it felt like? It felt as if everything's okay and it's all right. Whereas before, maybe I thought like, oh, I'm not good enough, or I'm a piece of shit, or whatever, or put myself down. And when I don't think I speak about this very much, and if people listen to this that know me, they might think, well, Ali's not like that. He never puts himself down. But Sarah will tell you, my wife, she'll tell you that I've had moments and she just wants to punch me, like slap me, like snap out of it, because she's a very strong character and very like robust. But she understands it, and she says, I've noticed you recently, you're not having these moments. You're not having these moments where you're putting yourself down and questioning yourself. You're just in the flow and taking action. And I think you become like that when you're aligned with what you're really meant to be doing, and when you're truly being yourself. I think you don't second guess yourself. You don't question things. You just do it. So yeah, I think that moment I felt that release of I'm okay. I'm a good person.
I know where to go from here.
Yeah, I know where to go, and I can truly make a difference to myself, but to humanity and to the world as well. I felt that's the kind of release I got, and knowing that it's not actually your fault, and it's not your parents' fault either. It's just the conditioning that's passed down, and some of it's subliminal, and some of it's like fed in subconsciously, and you don't realize, and then it gets embedded into you, and it's like that water dripping down the brick or the concrete.
Yes,
Well, eventually it'll crack it.
Yes.
Sometimes you get a sledgehammer taken to it and it'll crack it, but
Yeah.
sometimes it's just that slow drip, 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 and it's gonna catch up with you eventually. Whether that's a moment where you realise I'm not doing what I'm meant to be doing, or whether you have a breakdown or whatever, it'll come. So yeah, going back to what I said earlier, you've got to do that work. You've got to do it because it's important.
I mean, I want to talk about a few of your sledgehammer moments, because I think that's definitely a great part of the podcast. And you did say there's some big moments in your happening of life that has
let's hit 'em.
gone into your character. But one thing I do for the audience, just want to say, for that last 10 minutes of dialogue, was, for me, my takeaway is just fucking invest in yourself. Invest in yourself. A lot of people
And your health. I mean, we've not even spoken
self
about health,
everything, but
the
that
whole lot.
it all comes into it, you know. For example, we spoke in the kitchen and we're talking about you spending a lot of money on having a psychologist and so on. I do it going to a studio and I go and create and express myself, do my writing. I could do that at home. I've got microphones, I've got the setup, I've got Logic, I've got everything it takes to record it. But I really, for self, want to create something I'm absolutely proud of to the core of it. I know I've done the best we could possibly do. And it's a good slack of money for the day. I've gone in, I've put all the time and effort in, because I've put that money in. I'm going to make sure I make the most of every second in that studio. And again, all these people that come, I'm guessing you get a lot of people come to you with mental health problems and struggles. I do for myself, because I'm an open book. I like to sort of say, you know, I've been through all the shit. I taste the shit at times. It comes back to me. I'm not a perfect human. So when you are open like that, people come to you in different attitudes.
Yeah.
And I've had those people come and say, do you know what, I'm really low now. You just go a little bit into the life and they'll, you know, it is that story of going out on the weekend, getting smashed, giving it everything you've got, going back to a job you absolutely despise, and just going on the rat race and cycle of that. I know it sounds cliche in itself, but it's a truth that a lot of people do. It's like, listen, the world's changing. You don't have to live like that anymore. You can genuinely spin a plate here. Yes, you might have a job where you need to get the money in, and that's a part of it, but hobbies aren't just hobbies anymore. They can be more than just passions. They can become your part of your life that gets you the money in at the end of the day. Invest in that. Buy a good camera. Buy a really good piece of equipment that's going to help you become better at that. And just invest. And like you say, if you can fix your mind, if that's a broken state, go and get an amazing therapist or psychologist or somebody that's going to help you build that sense of self. And the moment you get that back is the moment you can start realigning in what your true self's supposed to be doing in life. So it's just
100%.
just make your investments, man. Really stop looking at all these possessions of wealth and material gifts, because that's brilliant and that can come in time. And when you're pursuing something you love doing and is supposed to be doing, the money comes.
Yeah.
It'll be there.
100%.
And you can get that fucking cool phone or watch or swanky bit of gear that you love, because that's down the line thing. But you've got to start from the true self first.
What I said earlier, you got to do.
Yeah.
Everything you need is right here.
It always comes back
Everything's
to it, and it's
right here. And I mean, I threw it on video. I'm just like waving my hand down my front
Yeah,
my body,
yeah.
but everything's right here. You've got everything. You've got everything you need.
Yeah.
Everything is right within this vessel that you've been gifted with. You're blessed to have. What's the chance of you being born? It's a number that you and I can't even fathom. It's gazillion to one of that sperm getting into that egg and you appearing 9 months later. It's a miracle.
Yeah.
You're a fucking... Everyone listening to this, watching this, you're a fucking miracle. You've been gifted a life. So just do the best with it.
Yeah.
Just do the best. And we've got things that are going to implement how good a life we can have. There's variables. I understand that. There's society, there's economics, there's our environment that we've grown up in, there's the way we're raised. There's so many things, but do your best. Just do the best you can every single day, And as I said, look to grow and look to work on yourself, because that's the ultimate, that's the fulfillment. And know that you're never going to get happiness, you're never going to get joy from anything external. That happiness and joy that you're going to get is internal, it's all inside. And it's all kind of in this middle portion of your body. It's your gut and your heart.
Yes.
And forget about the head, because the brain and the mind is just a computer. It'll just compute this, and it's just like working out like that MacBook you've got in front of you, or your Windows will work.
Full of viruses.
Yeah, it is. It's full of viruses. Yeah, iOS, whatever your operating system is, that's all your brain is. So just think of your brain as an operating system, and what can we do with an operating system? We can defrag it, we can clean it, we can reboot it. That's how powerful your mind is, and we know this now from neuroscience and neuroplasticity that we can mold, and the brain is malleable. But don't get clogged up in the head and forget about your gut instinct and your heart and your soul, and that's where the truest nature is, and that's where all your answers are going to be as well, is inside. And sometimes it's hard for us to get out of the head and into the heart, but when you follow your heart and follow your gut instincts, it won't serve, very rarely will it serve you wrong, very rarely. And I say like 5 positive affirmations to myself every single day, and one of them is, right now I'm so happy and grateful that when I trust myself and follow my impulses, everyone wins. And I say that, I've been saying that to myself for the last 6 years, every single day, and it's so true.
And listening to this, you know, there's some definite don't do's as well with that. Is don't play the victim card all your life, and don't compare. You know, I've had people looking over at me and going, yeah, but you're just a cis male white, all them labels at you, and you've had it easy, you've had money thrown at you. It couldn't be so far from the truth. But because they built a perception up of how easy somebody's had it, they've just thought, well, I'm never going to get that anyway. Where my life, and I know my life, but it's been so different to how they perceived it and created a story of it, that they've stopped pursuing something or doing something, because they think, well, I can't be a podcaster now, I can't be a videographer or a musician because I've not got the finances for that. I really did hit the fucking decks of depression, go, I'm not doing that shit anymore, I'm just going to do this. And because I did it so authentically, or because it was just my passion and I loved it, eventually people started paying me to go into schools and organisations and doing them talks, and that bought me a camera, or that bought me a microphone, or whatever. It was a constant bit of graft doing something I believed in, and that's what built up the buses and all that sort of thing. It wasn't what I've had thrown at me before, but I know this because I'm empathic towards it, because I've done it. I've looked at somebody else, I've said,
we've all done it. We've all done it.
They've just had this, they've had this lifestyle, they've lived this, you don't know what's going on in somebody's closed doors. You don't know what's going on in the household, and never judge them on the amount of money inside of it, but the amount of love that's been shown within it. And that's a danger game if you start comparing to people's stories that you don't actually fucking know.
Exactly. That's comparison is the thief of joy, isn't
Amen,
it?
sister.
It is, and that's harder, because I'm guilty as much as the next person, as much as probably you have, and maybe people you've described there. I've done it. I've been like, well, he's got an amazing podcast set up. What's the point? Or he's in Bali, like living his best life, or whatever. And that's on social media. And again, you don't know it. It's just like a snapshot in time of what's happening. And as we know, a lot of it's made up and fake anyway.
Have you seen a few of them things done where they're in IKEA and just for an experiment?
Yeah, it's
genius.
It's bonkers. It's absolutely bonkers. But we've all done it, and you said you briefly touched on it. And it's judgment, isn't it? Judgment it's an evil within all of us, and I think this is a real big problem with just life in general, is that judgment. And it's so different. We judge all the time, no matter, even if you're Dalai fucking Lama, or do you know what I mean, or you're sitting on I bet they're still judging people. It's so difficult not to do, but if we can understand people first, and get to know them, and listen to their stories and connect with them, not just on face value. In here again, I'm pointing in my heart, in on that deepest level, then we can know them more deeply, and we can understand them, or overstand them, or understand them. We can do all of that, rather than just, oh well, he's got a jazzy jacket on, he must be a hipster or whatever. We're making all these stories up, and what is it? you make a judgment on someone 7 seconds, is it, or something like
Mm.
that. Within 7 seconds, you've made a whole story about their entire life. Within 7 seconds, and this is again how powerful the brain is. Within 7 seconds, without even speaking to them, you think you know everything about that person, and you've made all these preconceived ideas and all these judgments, and most of them aren't true. You've got to get to know that person, and I've done it myself. I've been like, oh, even people in our members in the gym, oh, he's closed off and not my kind of guy. Get talking to him. Guy's amazing. Do you know what I mean? But I've already made a preconceived idea. I've already made a judgment. So if we can, I don't think we're ever going to eliminate it, but if we can reduce that amount of judgment, again, I think things will be accelerating.
You said something in there as well about, like, say, Dalai Lama and so on. We compare our lives to people like that, you know. We want to live like the Dalai Lama. I mean, that motherfucker is grown in a completely different set of living space, quarters, to how you can be. That the detachment from materials and possessions and so on, you know, the majority of our lives in this third world industry has all been based on materials from school, from programming, from so on. So be gentle with yourself, and also don't try and be the Dalai Lama. Just love the principles about him, see him as a mentor, take some amazing bits about him away. But we live in a world where you can't just meditate 12 hours a day.
No, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, you may get to some very enlightened state by that, where he probably has transcended above the norm. Don't aspire to be the Dalai Lama yet, but love some of the things about him that you can implement in your life. And there's so many people like that. But, you know, if you really, really do just desire to be the Dalai Lama, you're going to have to really change your circumstance. You've got to fuck off to Tibet. And
exactly.
Is Tibet still around?
Yeah. Nepal, Tibet, yeah.
But yeah,
we don't want to get into some geopolitics here, do we?
It just seems too loving of a space to get there yet. Fuck China. Oh God, demonetized. But yeah, honestly, I think that was a mistake of my own again. You know, I read, after feeling really depressed, really low, Dalai Lama's was one of the first books I actually dared read. I told you in the kitchen, I built a phobia up to reading, but I knew I needed something, so I went and picked up the Dalai Lama book, and I really did. I thought, I've got to just get rid of all my shit, get rid of all the possessions, meditate as much as I possibly can and become him. But it wasn't that at all, because it doesn't fit to my surroundings. But it was taking away some of the messages, and that's what I think people need to do more than ever. Have you read Russell Brand's book, Mentors?
No.
It's beautiful. It really is. He's just mentioning all these people of his life that have give wonderful advice, great tips, great tricks to succeed in the world. And also some bastards, but they've been mentors. But again, just learning bits and bobs about people, and that helps define and create that, we're going to say it, true self, the authentic place. You don't have to become somebody else. So, dude, where we've got to now is that part where I'm going to go through some of the sledgehammer moments in your life then, because you're such an interesting character. You are an old soul, awesome human, but what are some of the stories and anecdotal parts of your life where
I'll go through them, the ones that stick out to me, and then if you want to pick any of them apart, we'll do
dive.
So, in the womb, didn't want to come out. My mum was in slow labour for about, as far as I'm aware, and from what I've learnt from my parents and through some more, maybe you could say, esoteric stuff, I didn't want to come out. I nearly killed my mum coming out, 38 hours slow labour. Still a natural birth, managed to come out eventually, but yeah, caused my mum a lot of trauma and a lot of pain. And this is gonna have an effect on your relationship with your mum, with 0 to 7 and beyond. So that's a key thing that I didn't know about until 2016, when I started working with this life coach who his specialist area is astrology. And you can say what you like about astrology, but it's the oldest science known to mankind. So he taught me a lot of this stuff. He's like, did you have a traumatic birth? I was like, how the fuck do I know? I was not even born. I didn't know if I had a traumatic birth or not. He's like, oh, I think you had a traumatic birth and all this kind of stuff. Rang my mum up. Did I have a traumatic birth? She's like, yeah, you didn't want to fucking come out. You nearly killed me. Oh, tell me now, 20, 25, 26 years later or whatever. I didn't know about that. So that's one. As I've already alluded to, when I went to secondary school, I went to school that I didn't really know anyone. So that I think was a big pivotal point. Huge part was when I was 13 years old, and my cousin, who was technically more like an older brother, He was, so I must have been 15 actually, thinking about it, not 13. Yeah, 15, because he was 20. Yeah, so 14 I was 14 and he was 20. He got killed in a road traffic accident. He was driving with two of his friends. He was in the back. 2 lads in the front survived. He unfortunately died at 20 years old. So that was somebody that I just looked up to, like a brotherly figure, closer to him probably than my actual blood brother. And that hit me hard, and I turned to like drinking. Never drugs, but I was like drinking at like 14. I remember getting taken to hospital and nearly having my stomach pumped, and my dad picking me up and grounding me and all that kind of stuff. So that was a big thing. And then 19, or 18 or 19, I tore my ACL. So all I ever wanted to be was a footballer, really. I was never thinking about it. I was probably never ever good enough. But at the time, I was playing the best football I'd ever played in my life. There were scouts at our games. I played for a semi-pro team, but we had an amazing team. 3 of the lads in my team went on to play professional football. So I reckon if I didn't have the injury, I could have maybe played a decent semi-pro, maybe pick up 250 nicker a week or whatever.
Yeah.
On the side. So I tore my cruciate, didn't play football for 2 years, nearly went out to the States to play football over there and coach football out there. That didn't work out for whatever reason. So that happened at like 18, 19. When I was 20, fell into the fitness industry, and that's been my life ever since. 2015, end of 2014, I split up with my ex, who I'd been with for 7.5 years. We had a house together, mortgage. That ended. I ended all of that. Beginning 2015, met my now wife, Sarah. We got married in 2017, but in 2015, May of 2015, I went to Arizona to see my friend who was living there at the time. Went to Sedona, had this amazing spiritual awakening. All sorts of weird shit happened to me there, and we can dive into that. That was 2015. 2017, opened my gym, and then fast forward to where we are kind of now, 2021, having this work. I'm doing this work with this lady. And then 2016, I had this coach that I told you about, this astrological kind of guy. So they're kind of like key points on my timeline where I feel as if things have been, and some of them are sledgehammer moments where things have like really happened. So if you want to pick any of them apart, let's do it.
Dude,
how much time we got?
We've got all time, mate. Let's just go. Yeah. I'm really enjoying this, and it's amazing to have a guest like you on, because, you know, I've had incredible people on this podcast, but I'd say you're up there in the most sort of honest, open, authentic. Everyone's been honest and authentic, but just here I am. Yeah. This is. I'm going to tell you it all.
And to be fair, I'll be honest with you and with your audience. There's some stuff I've said today that, thinking about, I've probably not said out in public. So there you go.
We've done it, guys. We've cracked the egg. I want to go. Do you tell these at your talks though? Do you know when you do your seminars and so on?
No, this is where I need to evolve into. Yeah,
your story is going to be so powerful, and it's going to help so many's lives. Honestly, I can't wait to see what you develop this into. The moment you refine it and build on it, get a little slideshow together, whatever it is, it's going to be a power talk. So I'm buzzing for this, man. Let's literally just go to number 1. Like the birth.
Okay, yeah.
That's amazing. Did you notice any things as well with your mum over time where you were saying there's going to be maybe hostility towards you? It's going to open into that way. A therapist said that to you. There's going to be trauma there between you two. Did you notice that she lived out in a certain way towards you and not towards your brother? If that was an easier birth or so on?
100%. I feel as if I was always kind of mollycoddled or wrapped in cotton wool, and she was very kind of trying to get close and nurturing and all that. So I've always had quite a close, loving connection with
unconsciously by her, sort of just trying to.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, trying to, and then maybe unconsciously with that, me knowing it, I've always wanted to protect my mum and like look out for her, because I almost killed her, but I never knew that. Wow. But I've been there, that you don't say shit about my mum kind of thing. You don't hurt my mum. My mum comes before everyone, that kind of thing. And that's probably why, because I caused her so much trauma at the very first stage before I've even to like come out. I've put her through hell. So I think we've kind of intertwined like close kind of relationship because of that, probably.
Because you could have gone the other way, couldn't it?
Yeah,
She could
exactly.
have blamed you.
Could have blamed me and all that, but I think it was the opposite.
Wow.
Opposite. Yeah.
I mean, everything's got a byproduct as well, though, hasn't it? Because it could be very positive that you've stuck up for your mum, looked after your mum, become very close together. But then that fluffiness, sometimes that you get attachment, don't you, and stuff behind
Exactly.
that.
It's everything's got a polar, hasn't it?
Yes.
So,
yeah.
and this is another thing that I quite like talking about is not even balance, because I think that word gets chucked around too much, balance, but let's just say equilibrium, just being in the, if you've got the yin and the yang, being in the middle of it, that's the best place to be. And I think it's had its positive effects, this relationship with my mum, but also very negative or harmful ones with a lot of the stuff that I've already shared with you today. That stuff of being too hard on myself, putting myself down, not liking confrontation, all of that kind of stuff can be traced back to that. And this is what people don't realise. This is things, and you bury them. As I said, you bury them, you forget about them, but they're there.
Is that balance in that, for an example, for the mum thing, you know, in context, if somebody tells a yo mum a joke, I can imagine you getting really protective and like, no, you don't fucking do that about me.
Yeah.
But in context, you know, you're with your football lads, you can probably let that slip and slide. But because if you're not living in balance, anything's an attack. So you're just always on the forefront. I'm protecting. But then, you know, in a circumstance where, no, actually, my mum's present, or now warrants a time to protect my mum, I'm going to use that knowledge about me where I'm balanced with it, and I'm going to protect her. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's having an awareness of how that's affected you, who you've become, and not letting it run away with you. Would you understand that and say that's a fair point?
Yeah. There's something I want to say on this as well, is that the more deeper or further along the spiritual, if you want to call it that, the spiritual path that I find myself on, or that I'm going down, the more I do that, the more I realise that again, it's also, it's not your fault, but it's also not your shit necessarily to deal with what's going on with that individual. So my mum's got issues, my dad's got issues, my brother's, we've all got issues, and is it my place to iron them out and deal with them? Not necessarily. It's that person's. And yes, they're your mum, or your brother, they're your blood, but they're not you. Yeah. Just going back to what I said earlier, you're the most important thing. You're the most important person. And when people start to wake up to that and realise that, that's when we're going to have the biggest shift, because we're too... Yes, work on these things. I'm not saying not work on them. They're really important, and fix a relationship if it's broken, if it needs to be fixed. But also be aware that they've got their shit going on, and it's up to them to figure it out and deal with it as well. And that's not your priority or your prerogative to do that.
My friend Paul Cope explains it like a production line. Well, he does it in a car manufacturing company.
Okay, yeah.
And he's always saying, like,
I need to get him on my show,
dude,
don't I?
he's wicked. You two would be best mates as well. We're going to build a tribe, man.
Yeah.
But again, he just says, imagine if you're building these cars and every single car keeps breaking down at 20,000 miles on the clock. You'd question it. You'd ask about why they keep breaking down, but we don't. We just keep building these cars with these faults, and after this car goes out and these manufacturers build it, the ones that have been built with the faults in go back into the system and start building them again, and then new faults get added and become in, and it really is that.
I love that, because that's more of a, that's great because everyone learns in a different way. That's more of a logical way to think of it, whereas I'm coming from more of a spiritual kind of perspective. But this is the great thing, we spoke about this off air, is that having different lenses and not taking everything as is. You've got to look at things from a different way and a different perspective.
And it's the truth, man. People eventually in self-help, might go a little bit weird then on
No.
Yeah. Oh, good.
What I wanted to say, while it's fresh in my head about that as well, is that when you keep doing that, whether it's the production line or whether you keep putting these imprints in, what you'll start to do is you'll start to believe that. You'll start to believe that story which is what I've done. You start to believe that that's the truth.
Yes.
Or that's the real way, or that's the only way. And it's actually not. It's the opposite. It's
But
a lie.
what you're saying there is if it was a conscious car that's gone out, but you've gone away and said, do you know what? I'm going to change this. I can do it on my own accord. I can find out answers. I can find out how to make this not a 20,000 mile clock, but a 50,000 or 100,000. I'm going to make myself a better car today. And do you know what I mean? It's not your responsibility to go back into that manufacturer and change everything about the system. But if you can go out and show it can be done outside of the system and you've created it yourself, then other cars coming out of it will go, gee, I don't need to go back into there and do it. I'm just going to do whatever he did on that way and find out other answers as well on that way. And there'll be different clocks. You might get to 60,000, 70. There might be another trans and dental person that's got to fucking 200,000 miles, and you're looking at that person the next. It's all a building process, but it's the line you're following. And that's the danger. We've got to a sort of an acceptance where we come out at 20,000 and that's it. That's how life is. You don't ever have to become to that point. It's infinite, in fact. There's so much possibility. I love that you actually went to birth as a integral part, because nobody would.
Yeah, no.
Everyone would come back and go, well, when I was 12, I got chased home from school and spat on and whatever. That was one of my stories. But it really does matter what happened in that womb, how you were treated.
Yeah, we've not even got into ancestral trauma.
Yes, yeah. Well, I mean, do you want to? You've got more of your story, baby. I think there's a podcast coming number 2 out of this.
Yes, because it happened before I'm even in the womb. So if we believe in that, you got to be careful here, because people say it might be woo-woo or hippie or new age or whatever, but you've got a soul contract, and so what happened before to that soul? Like, what happened in my past lives? Was I tortured at the stake or whatever? Or do you know what I mean? Or was I rich? Or did I get abused? Or was I raped? Do you know what I mean? You've got ancestral stuff. And if you go over to all indigenous tribes all over the world, it doesn't matter where you go, whether you go to like the Incas in Peru, or you go to Mexico with Aztecs, or you go over to Aboriginals in Australia, or people that are from India, wherever you go, they all resonate with this. They all believe in this, and they all say that they can be spirits, or they can be ancestral karma, or all that kind of stuff. And they have shamans or sages or whatever that will help to basically suck that energy out of you. So we can go even another level deeper. We can go as esoteric as you want, and you can say, right, okay, I've got all this trauma in this life. Ali West, 34 years on this planet. And then I've got however many other ones I had here, thousands or millennia of whatever of stuff. So, right, we're going to work on that as well. And there's people that specialize in working on ancestral trauma and ancestral karma, and that's another layer to it. So you've got to look at things. It depends how deep you want to go, and again, it goes back to how much do you want to work on yourself, how much do you want to grow, how much do you want to live a fulfilled life. And I think asking these questions, going a bit deeper, having conversations like what we're having, is paramount, and it's important, because then I can grow and I can be the best version. And I find it fascinating. I find it interesting. I always want to know. And I'm happy to be proven wrong. If someone can like present something and say, "Oh, that's wrong. This is where you're wrong," I'm humble enough, and I've got the humility to say, "Fine, you proved me wrong. I was wrong." And I'm not so fixed and rigid in my beliefs that I don't do it. And some people say to me like, "Well, why do you want to know? Why do you want to know? Why do you want to know?" Well, why don't you?
Yeah.
But then we said earlier, it can make you ill. So don't go to the level where it makes you sick. That's the important part. Don't like put yourself in a mental institute by like going too deep and questioning everything and sending yourself a bit doolally. Have the self-awareness to okay, I'm gonna go deep, but okay, I'm gonna draw the line here.
I'm not feeling happy now.
You can do this with all the conspiracy theories and all that. You can go. What is this moving the needle forward with your life? Does it matter whether the Earth's flat or round or whatever? Everyone's got their opinion on it or the belief, but does it matter? Is it gonna move the needle forward for you as an individual? Probably fucking not. So focus on the variables that are gonna improve your life.
Yes. What's it doing to the here and now? And even conspiracies. The reason I do this podcast is because I wanted to talk about everything.
Yeah.
Drugs and craziness and boxing and football and just anything and everything, because I love conversation, I love people, I want to know who you are, what you're about, what makes you tick, what makes you sad, everything. And I genuinely will never stop doing this podcast. I don't know how long.
Good for you, man.
Honestly,
love it.
I'll never stop doing it. I absolutely, it can never become stale to me, because everybody's new, everybody's got a new experience. If I get you back on in a month, it's going to be a new complete conversation.
Yeah.
It's absolutely brilliant. But when I do the conspiracy chats with friends, I love it until the point where I can see them getting ill or not in a comfortable position with it, and I think, oh, this is condoning something I don't believe in, because I can talk. I got to that factor I told you outside when in the kitchen and stuff. I believe in nothing to some degree. I'm not a nihilist, but I don't know what to believe. I don't know. It's like agnostic, but again, I like finding out truths. I like searching. I like listening and learning. Nothing terrifies me anymore, though. I can learn and listen and just go, wow, this is amazing. Can't believe you think that. But then I've had those conversations where we're going down lines and paths, and is this real, is that real? And I know, because I've got that awareness, to go, well, at the end of the day, I'm going to go back in. My daughter's in there. I need to be present for her. I need to be a good partner. I need to be able to switch off and relax. So I know in all the mist of the madness of any conversation, I know what I need to add into my life and implement to be a good human. I've just seen it take over, like you say, so many of close friends.
Same.
Where they're going down all these paths and tangents, and it gets to that what the fuck is the point moment, where they do live in terror. They do live in that constant fear, and that is never going to bring out the best of you.
Exactly.
And what are you going to do about it? Seriously, if that's where you're at and it's just going to paralyze you to having no path, I think, well, switch off now. Turn off. You need to find a new. You need to refresh it. So I'm all about anything and picking up anything, all conversation. But it's weird that we have built up that mentality where you can just listen to anything and sort of have a line and have a stopping point. Why do you have that? Do you know about your psyche where you, like we said outside, again, your opinions are more like clothes rather than your skin now and tattoos. Yeah. It's interchangeable. You can swap it. You can wear cool stuff that you love. And sometimes you go, I don't feel this today. I'm going to put it back and put on something a bit more funky. When did that happen?
I think for me with that, I'm all about high vibes. I use that word a lot, and people pick up on it, like vibes.
Good
vibes,
word.
vibes,
I like
vibes. I want to be high vibes, full power, high level as much as possible. Mm-hmm. Yes, you're gonna have your dark days. You're gonna have days where you can't be asked to get out of bed or whatever. We all have that. That's the balance. That's the equilibrium. But I want to be like high vibes as much as possible.
Feeling good.
Yeah, and I think if you're not having that viewpoint of having different lenses, as you say, interchangeable clothes, if you haven't got values, core, deep-rooted values,
moral compass,
yeah, and also alignment, then you're gonna get carried away with it all, and it's gonna consume
awesome
you. So you've got to have that. Yes, take it in. Okay, well, this person's saying this. This person over here is saying something else. This person over here is saying something completely different else. I'm going to take all of those. I'm going to make my own mind up. I'm going to discern it. Maybe I'm going to do some research, look into things a little bit more. What's my viewpoints on this? What's my values on this? And then come to my own decision and my own conclusion. And if that person's vibing with that, cool. If they're not, cool as well. Within reason, not cool if they're causing damage or causing harm to themselves, to others, or to property or whatever. I like to keep it simple with all that stuff. Like, just don't hurt anyone, don't disturb the peace, don't steal from anyone. You know, like
golden rule.
Yeah, like common law or whatever. Just keep
Yeah,
it simple. So as long as you're not doing any of that stuff, then you're entitled to your own views and your own opinions. And who am I to say that it's right or wrong unless I can put it across in a manner that where they can discern it for themselves. You know what I mean?
So here's a question though: why are people so desperate to be right and have people on their side and think in the way they think? Because isn't the beauty of life having an array of different ideas and opinions and thoughts that we can all come and
Life's a rich tapestry.
Yeah, it goes, I believe in afterlife. Oh, I believe there's a God. Oh, I believe in atheism, and that's it. But that's fucking beautiful.
Yeah.
It's a great conversation to have at a dinner table with loads of different people together. So why is there that anger associated around it, that they're like, well, why the fuck do you believe that, you idiot? Or why don't you believe this? Or as soon as you start saying certain things, just a hesitance and oh God, he's talking about star signs, or he's talking about afterlife now. Oh, doesn't suit me. Why is that so painful to people?
Very good question.
Yes, I knew I'd get one.
Yeah, you got one. Yeah, you got one. Very, very good question. Many variables, many things. Fear. It's a big one. They're fearful, or they're anxious, or they're worried that, oh, maybe that person's right, or maybe if I say something, then it won't click with them, and there'll be animosity. So maybe fear. And then you got the opposite, is that power. People want that to be that dominant, and they want to be in control, and yeah, it's my way or the highway, and I'm right, and I've got all the power and the control. I'd say they're two big ones.
Yeah.
But then going back to what we said earlier, lack of awareness, lack of self-awareness, laziness, just not prepared to do the work, and then instant gratification. They want to know that, okay, so I'm conservative, I believe in all the conservative points, and this, and it's conservative is the only way, and that's it. And it's just like, there's no back and forth, there's no common ground. It's just, that's it, that's the only way. And there's some of the reasons, definitely.
I think that's a good answer, mate. Yeah, that was exactly what I wanted to hear, and some thoughts there that I'd not actually taken into account. But when you hear truths like that, it's actually quite helpful to be compassionate of that as well.
Yeah.
You go, well, I was that, or I understand that, I know how that exists, so you don't have to fight back against it in such an angry way, because the vaccine is a very good way in understanding it.
One thing we didn't touch on it as well is a lot of it's societal, and it's programming.
Yes.
It's the programming that we've had from coming out the womb, from the day we arrive. We're programmed from everything. And I don't mean television or music. They're two of the biggest ones. But we're programmed from our parents, from our grandparents, from our siblings, from our teachers, from our coaches. We drilled stuff into us, and we pick it up. And a lot of the time we just take it, we just absorb it and take it as face values, and then we build our own values and our morals and all that stuff around what we've been programmed. But sometimes you need to do some deprogramming,
yes,
and change the program and put a new program in to grow and to excel.
Which is terrifying though for some people.
Of course it is. This is what I'm saying. It's
going
hard.
into the unknown.
Yeah. And it's just. I mean, again, you can beat yourself up, or you can go too deep, and then you can go back to that. Oh well, what's the point? But I'd rather look at different viewpoints, listen to different people, make my own kind of views and opinions. And as you say, they're going to change. Everything's cyclical, everything moves, flow, tides come in, they go back out, the moon goes through its cycles, women go through the cycles, the season goes through, everything's cyclical. So knowing that what we're saying now and maybe our views and opinions, they might change, but be open to change. I think going back to your question, why are they so dominant, or why they're so on it, is that this again, it's fear, but reluctance to change. Change is hard, we know that. Change is difficult, change is it's painful, no, not change. but embrace change. And we've got to, and we're in a time now where we've got to embrace change, because the next 10, 15 years, the world's going to be
very different.
Very different. It's going to be unrecognizable. And I mean that I could say that with a high percentage certainty, that the world is going to be a different place in the next 10 to 15 years. And you've got to embrace it. Otherwise, you're going to have a tricky time.
Bring it on, baby.
Bring it on. And that's it.
Yeah.
Look at it with that view, with that lens of bring it on. Embrace it. Enjoy it. Enjoy the process, because there's no point. I've learnt this, and I've learnt this the hard way. I used to get obsessed with the end goal. When I do X or when I hit X, everything's going to be rosy. And what happens when you do that, you get fixated on that end goal, and then there's a few things that happen. You either hit it, you're like, is this it? That's one thing. Or you don't hit it, and then you're like, oh, fuck's sake, I didn't hit my goal, blah, blah, blah. And what's the most important bit? The journey, the process. It's cliche and cheesy, but they're cliche thing. And they're cheesy for a reason, because it's true. Enjoy that presence, that moment, because that's another thing of life. It's about creating moments and creating memories, and we're doing it right now. And then enjoy those memories and enjoy those moments and embrace it, because you want to be on. Well, I want to be on my deathbed and say, do you know what? Yeah, I lived life. I enjoyed it. I embraced it. I lived a fulfilled life. Happy days. You don't want to lay on your... And again, it's cheesy and it might be a bit like entrepreneurial, but you don't want to lay on your deathbed and have regrets and think, oh, well, I wish when I was 30 I'd gone and bought that SLR camera to do that podcast, or I wish I'd gone to Vietnam when I said I was going to go. You don't want to be like that. No one wants to be like that. So just embrace the change, but also do the work on yourself.
And one day you might be a really sick NFT, like you've been telling me. You're a moment.
That's it. An NFT, yeah.
Make yourself a moment.
Well, that's a whole other podcast, which I
Dude, we really should do more podcasts together. This is perfect. Thanks, Alex. I really appreciate linking this up together.
That was the birth. We did the birth for about 30 minutes.
Go on. The next one was pretty deep. I think that was the car crash.
Oh, yeah, losing my cousin. Yeah.
So this stage, you've gone through birth, traumatic experience. You're very attached to your mum, or very close, and you're quite a shy kid, really.
Yeah.
Introverted until you go to the school where you become a chameleon and all extroverted and all over the place, just building up different characters. Then somebody who's very, very close to you dies in a car crash. Did that fully flip you into a completely different state of being then?
Yeah, I'd say so. I'd say I just went, I wouldn't say off the rails, but a bit of a spiral, a bit of a downward spiral. So as I said, drinking, and again, this is another topic, is like drinking culture and societal stuff. We could go down so many rabbit holes with that. But yeah, I started drinking at like 14, and beer and vodka. What was it? 2020. Are you too young for 2020 or not? 2020, like liquor. Like, oh god, 2020, bloody white lightning, everything. On the park. Yeah, drinking, and I think that had an effect on my school. I've just lost someone that's really close to me. Who's like a brotherly figure in my life, and then I've like got on the booze on a Friday and Saturday night. It's gonna affect your schoolwork. So my grades definitely dipped, because I was probably like I would have said not straight A, but I wasn't far off being like all A's across the board.
Yeah.
But year 10 and 11, they just started to like kind of really go down. I think I still did well. I came out with like 4 B's, 5 C's and a D, so it's still pretty good.
You're square.
Yeah, I know. Geek. I told you, it's worth hanging around with these geeks.
Yeah.
See,
I knew there was something about them guys.
Yeah, exactly. So so my grades definitely went down. So some of my predicted grades I didn't get any A's, and I was predicted quite a few A's. So it affected school life, but I never let it affect my football though. I used that as almost like a fire, because my cousin Wes, he was like really passionate about his football, and he taught me to be a better footballer and get better. And he said, no matter what you do, because he used to smoke a bit of weed and whatnot, he's like, no matter what you do, he's like, don't get onto the weed. Like, do that when you're older. Like, if you want to do weed and do drugs, do it when you're older. Don't do it in your teenage years. Just focus on your football, because you've got the ability to like do well with it. Yeah. So I all my mates smoking around me, like, oh, getting an eighth of weed. Do you want to get some? And like, no, I'm cool. I'll just focus on my football. But so I was drinking, but I wasn't getting into some of the other stuff. So I never let it really affect my football. But definitely, I became closed off. I got quite emotional. I was like constantly like being upset, and what I've realised is that always, for numerous reasons, probably the childhood stuff, and because of this losing this loved one, I always flipped things back onto me. So even if it was someone else's getting upset or whatever, I'd make it about me. And I'd start getting upset, and it's like, oh, it's X, Y, and Z. It's because Wes died, or because whatever happened to me. And it happened with my first girlfriends in like teenage years, and they'd be like, this isn't about you. It's not about that. It's about my stuff. But I'd always find a way to flip it back onto me. So that's kind of that disassociation and that chameleon stuff again coming through. Oh, it's coming out now, isn't it? This is like a therapy session. So yeah, so I definitely noticed, emotional stuff, and also school. They were the two main areas that I saw it affecting.
Mate, I mean, I love that we're having a therapy session together. I'm learning, listening to you, a lot of truth in my character and my story, and it really does. It correlates strongly.
Yeah.
So in that moment, it's Wes, is it?
Yeah.
Wes. You're very, very close together all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of the time. Yeah. I mean, obviously he's 19, 20, so he's like doing his thing, going out on a I couldn't go out at probably could in those days, go out at 13 or 14, but I didn't. So he's like going out, but we'd like go to football together because my dad ran a Sunday team that he played for, so I'd be at that. He lived with me, so because his mum had like kicked him out for whatever reason, and my mum and dad took him in, so we was in the same bedroom, so we shared a bunk bed together. I was on the top, he was on the bottom, so we play PlayStation together. So it was in each other's pockets as much as we could be, even with a big age difference. But I guess as well, which I've never really thought until maybe now, is that I probably maybe grew up a bit quick.
Yes.
So didn't have maybe whatever a normal, in air quotes, childhood is. I probably didn't have that, because I was like, okay, well, I want to be like my cousin who's 18, 19, and I want to be dating girls, and I want to be drinking, and I want to be listening to hip hop or whatever it is. And so maybe I grew up quick, but as I said, I think I was always older anyway, because I was an old soul and I was very wise.
Having conversations with people from 2, 3.
Yeah.
What I was going to ask is, clearly the adults and friends in your circles knew how traumatic that experience was going to be for you, because you were so close.
Yeah.
How did they help you with the grieving process? Were you helped at all with teachers, with parents, with his mum and dad, yours?
Don't think so.
It was just...
No, I just took it all as my... And that's going to affect you into your adult life as well. I just again, that's probably my mum maternal instincts, and me being like that cancer, that nurturing nature, and me being very much like you, like an empathic kind of person. I was like, right, how can I calm everyone else down, and how can I make sure that my mum's all right, and my dad's all right, and Wes's mum's all right, and his friends are all right? And I'm like, should I be doing this at 14? A lot of pressure. I think that now, should I have been doing that at 14? But then you just click into it and you don't know. And so probably I never really did properly grieve, and maybe until into my adult lives, where I kind of let it go and dealt with some of that stuff. And time obviously is a great healer. But yeah, I never grieved straight away. I've shed tears, obviously, but I didn't really like properly grieve. And then my friend Paul, kind of, who was one of Wes's mates, he kind of stepped into that void. So I had that like older person again that was there. So it was interesting. Yeah, I was. But that goes. We always flip back to what I'm saying about working on yourself, but you don't know at that age. Obviously, you don't know at 14. You might do now with podcasts and stuff, where you can work on yourself, but you don't know back then at 14 or do the work on yourself. But that goes back to, I was putting other people before myself. I didn't give myself that time to grieve. I didn't like sit in that emotion. I was just like, oh, is Joe Bloggs, is my mum okay? Let's make sure they're okay. Look, rub them on the back, it's all right. He's in heaven now, whatever, everything's all gravy, when it's not really.
No. there's so many angles we can go down together, so many different paths and avenues, and I think that on its own is an episode we could do, like the grieving process, and building your house on really poor foundations is not wise. You've really got to go into that basement, look, it's dark and it's scary, but the second you go and feel it and understand it and go, right, we need to put a wall up here, we need to put foundations correctly here, and just restart. But that takes a lot of doing and a long time. But that's what this podcast today has been about, is that working on yourself, investing in yourself, and really building up a good character, but knowing you've got to go through all this trauma you've been through, all these problems, not being able to deal with repressing feelings, all them things, and going back through it and reliving it a little bit. So,
and you've got to walk the walk as well. Like a lot of people, they say stuff, but they don't fucking do it. I know that for a fact. I've seen it with people in my close circles, and then people through health and fitness, and even in the spiritual world, they'll say certain things, but when you get to know them and you look, they're not even doing it. Yeah, I'd like to think.
Can imagine you see it more firsthand than a lot of people.
I'd like to think with nearly everything I say, I'm doing it as well. Yeah. The only thing I'm not very good at practicing what I preach is mobility. I tell everyone the power of mobility, mobilising your joints and stretching, and I never fucking stretch.
Go on, bench.
That's football though. That's football. You don't.
It's turn up and play.
Turn up and play. There's no culture around stretching and mobility, and that's probably why we've both torn our ACL or our MCL or whatever. So
bit of both.
Yeah. So that's probably the only thing I don't practice what I preach. But when I'm on Instagram or I'm on a podcast saying I journal, I meditate, I do cold therapy, I do red light therapy, I do all of these positive practices, I read, go to sleep on time. I do it. I live it. I talk the talk and walk the walk. But there's a lot of people saying, oh, well, I'm so zen and I'm spiritual, but they're not. They're not at all. They're nowhere near it. Yeah. And I don't want to judge or anything, but don't say something when you're not. And I think that's a problem with the health and well-being. And now I'm learning more. It's a problem with the spiritual kind of community as well. Is that there's a lot of this kind of they say one thing but do the polar opposite.
Yes.
If you're gonna say it, do it.
Yeah. That's probably my worst trait in a person is what you've just described then, but particularly in the spiritual world, because it's this fluffy coat you're wearing and mask and colour and all that, and behind it lies just a broken soul that, and at times, I mean, you must have seen this in different areas of your life, but trying to dish out ways of being, ways of living, ways of doing, and then not executing it, not tried it out, not sampled it, but they're just speaking the jargon. Yeah. But I know from you, I know that isn't the case. I know from me, I've lived through depression. I can give a bit of advice out on my lived experience. Nobody can take that away from me. Yeah. And I've been to them.
I wouldn't say I've been depressed because I've never really been depressed in my life. So I wouldn't go and say I can help you with your mental health because I've been depressed. I know exactly how it feels. I don't. So I don't really like the saying, but people say stay in your lane. So yeah, stay in your lane to some extent. You can veer off it a little bit, but if you've not lived that or experienced it, or if you've not got the knowledge and expertise around it, then don't fake it till you make it.
But that's the thing. I mean, I was in the football scene, loved football days, boxing days, all that, and even them lads you see at the pub. The thing I love about them is that authenticity. Is they very much are. Well, that's gay, isn't it? Or whatever. Yeah. But I know where I stand. I know how to sort of showcase myself, put myself with them, make them feel at ease, but still be myself. And that really helps. But when you're in the spirit of somebody you think is in a certain alignment, in a certain way, and they're telling you they want this from them, and you put yourself out in a certain way, and you go, this just doesn't feel real. This doesn't feel like we're having a genuine conversation. And then it only takes a month or two of being a friend, quote unquote, where you go, oh, that's why it didn't feel real, because it was just made up. It was all fake down the end, but you'd look the part, you felt that, didn't feel the part, but you showed the part, but the feeling is often right, isn't it? It's
Yeah,
like
yeah,
today,
yeah.
you came up straight up and I went,
Hug.
fucking hug.
Yeah.
What a guy, in the eyes, in the demeanour, in the energy, and you just, there's a no. There's a genuine no.
Yeah.
And you feel it in the words and everything, but it is before
And
that.
it's important as well to know that you're not going to vibe with everyone. You're not going to resonate with everyone, and that's cool. That you'll meet people, and no matter how hard you try, you just don't hit it off, and that's absolutely fine.
Yeah.
Because I believe that we're all like one. We're all connected. We're all interconnected with not just with each other, but with nature and the universe and everything. I think we're all one. But we've all got our own traits and all got our own skills and our own gifts and all that kind of stuff. So you're not going to vibe with everyone. That's just the way it is. And again, another cheesy cliche, vibe attracts your tribe. But
Yes.
it does because it's a vibe, isn't it? It's a vibration.
Yeah.
A vibration. And people are like, well, I don't believe in that. Well, here's one for you. How many times have you walked into a bar and said, vibes off in here? And they're not a spiritual kind of person, or
I'm not
whatever.
feeling it.
Or I'm not feeling it. It's the same thing, and that you can pick up on it because everything's energy.
Yes.
This microphone's energy. We're putting energy across. We're putting energy through to the
feels
audience.
good.
Feels good. Yeah. The lights energy. This floor's energy. The bus's energy. Everything's in motion all the time. Everything is vibration. Is electricity. Is magnetism, and is dielectricity. That's what we are. Everything is energy. So. Yeah, sometimes the vibe's going to be off and you're not going to resonate, and that is cool. That's absolutely fine. So you know. When you know, you know.
It's like that feeling again, you know, somebody that you're really close to and you've built a vibe up with, and you've got an elephant there or something's just around, you feel it.
Yeah.
You know it straight away. You don't know, maybe address it in the right way, and that's where like heat comes from. But it's a feeling there, and it's learning about in certain vibes how you deal with certain vibes, and then you start finding comfort in most vibes because you try and squash them elephants, or you go into that pub. You can just eradicate yourself. Some pubs you need to, but some you can, you know, you over egg it as well, don't you? You go in and it's all about being conscious of this vibe. Is the vibe right? I've got friends like that too. I'm sure you have.
Yeah.
And it's just an over understanding of a vibe.
Yeah.
It's notice the feeling, but if you're so comfy in yourself, so like cemented, you've got your armor on, you can be good in most vibes as well.
Yeah,
it's
sure.
not like you've got to go in somewhere, go, no,
And
this
you can
isn't
lift
me,
the vibe.
I'm out.
You can lift the vibe.
Yeah.
So you can go in and the place might be,
Right.
I'm not feeling it, or I'm not too sure. But because of your being, your persona, your vibe, whatever you want to label it up as, you can take it up.
Yeah.
And that's how, this is how powerful we are. We're super powerful people. No matter if you're from the lowest to the low or the highest to the high, we're all beyond powerful. And when we start to realize this is when we're gonna, and this is a thing, like, I'm gonna go down a kind of crazy thing here, but I think this is from what I'm learning now more about the last kind of couple of years. I've really dove deep into ancient history, esoteric practices, mysticism, alchemy, the occult, this kind of stuff. And the more and more I look into this stuff, I realize that this is what we had like thousands of years ago. We had this kind of, everyone knew that there was more to what we experience with our traditional five senses. Everyone knew you could harness higher powers, energies, but they also knew that they had it within them as well. And you see this everywhere, no matter what part of the world you go to, whether that's through artifacts or archaeological sites, you see it through the symbols that they left. And then I think what's happened is in the last don't take any of this as face value, guys.
Extrapolate.
This just go and look into this yourself. But this is what kind of my overstanding of it is that around about a certain period in time, this stuff had to go almost underground and branch into, in air quotes, secret societies, because a certain nefarious group of people were trying to squash it all down and say, no, you're not powerful, you can't connect to higher sources, that's all a load of crap. I'm going to say it, a lot of that is the Catholic Church. They kind of squashed all of that. I mean, look in the, whatever it was, 1400, 1500, I'm guessing here, look it up. They were burning witches at the stake because they thought like, oh, it's evil, it's occult practices. But their stuff they were doing, and even before that with like the Mayans and the Aztecs, and even before that with Atlanteans, or if whatever you believe in, but all of that, they were doing these like amazing things, creating amazing structures. They had advanced technology, all of this kind of stuff, and we're led to believe that no, that we've just kind of evolved and we've got better as we have with certain technology and certain stuff that we do. But I think we had all these knowings and these understandings and this learning and this education that we are powerful and we do have super amazing gifts and skills. And back in the day, they knew how to harness it and they knew how to spread that out, and that's been pushed down. But I feel as if it's coming back now. And
Yeah,
we've seen
it's like
this
a
with
pendulum.
we've seen, and this is what I'm saying about everything's cyclical, and I think we're seeing that now with like the psychedelic renaissance and people getting into spiritual practices and people questioning the authoritarian structures, and systems, and now we're seeing the merging of maybe spirituality and tech. And that's why I'm saying it's and you said it, it's like, let's do it, baby. Like, it's a great time to be alive, because stuff that's been hidden and squashed and pushed down and that can only be communicated if you're a Rosicrucian or a Freemason or a White Knight or whatever the case, that they had to do that. So I don't think that those people are necessarily bad people. I think they had to go underground to keep this kind of esoteric and amazing stuff hidden, so it didn't get completely squashed. Otherwise we might be in up shit street. So I think you're going to see like this merging of spiritual and tech, and it's gonna. I'm excited. I think the world's gonna be an amazing place, and a lot of people are like, oh, the world's going to shit, and we're in pandemic. This and that. Man, like, it's a great time to be alive. You're gonna see some big changes, and I think I hope, and I do truly believe. I think it's gonna be good changes. I went all over the place with that, but I hope I got to the right point.
You definitely did for me.
Yeah.
That is the point. Going everywhere with it.
Yeah.
Always coming back round.
Meandering.
Yeah.
Love it.
Well, dude, we genuinely could do the longest podcast ever created. I genuinely believe that. We're competing with Rogans here, brands, everybody. I could do this forever. I want to go into the football a little bit, the ACL, because that's something that's affected my life too. 5 years ago, so of recent, and it took me away from something I was really passionate in. But then at some stage we will have to wrap it up.
Yeah.
But there's got to be a side podcast here or something. I'm feeling it. It's building, or whatever the hell's happening.
Get your A3 paper out. Do a brain dump.
What do you think, guys? You write in your questions. But tell me, how old were you when you snapped your ligament, and
I think
what
was 18,
did that do to you?
18, 19.
And then back to the Mayans.
Yeah. If they existed.
Amen.
Oh. Maybe all history is fabricated.
I like the
story.
breakdown. Yeah, his story. I've always said that. That was one podcast I listened to, and I went, I'm taking that forever.
Well, that's another rabbit hole we could go down, the whole like power of words and vowels and symbols and spells and all that kind of stuff.
Talking about certain things, vibes and so on. I love that idea of, you've got to just experience it. There's nothing more powerful than the experience, because the way we explain things, diction and articulating things is so limited.
Yeah.
It's that tasting honey sort of metaphor, If I'm describing that to you now, it's sticky, it's sweet, it's gooey. It's about as far as I can conjure up. And you go, well, so many things are sticky, gooey and sweet, but you go, right, here's some honey. Oh, that's what honey's like. And it's so hard to explain. And that's always when we're doing these sort of podcasts, when we're talking about the esoteric, the existential, the whatever we're feeling, we're trying our best with it. Yeah. We're building an idea up, but you've just got to go out there and live it too. And that's what these anecdotal stories do for me. I love it when somebody's explaining the jargon, explaining the words and putting it out there. But when you go, I went to a waterfall and I felt this sensation. I know it. I know what you're saying to me, and it's putting yourself in them shoes. So you telling me these stories really helps me envision.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
One thing I won't go into detail with this as well, but another thing I've been doing a lot of recently is just also playing devil's advocate a little bit.
Please do.
So let's use an example and let's use something topical. So, okay, the pandemic and COVID is to change the whole structure of society, and it's a global reset, and there's some elite people that are hiding in the shadows that have made all these plans, and they made it and they released it and blah blah. That's if there even is a virus. Anyway, that's another matter. Anyway, so let's say that they've got those people saying that that it's a big conspiracy, blah blah blah. But let's play devil's advocate on it, and let's say, well, what if there really is a dangerous virus? There is a global pandemic, and all the stuff that the CDC, the NHS, World Health Organization, all that stuff that they're doing is to help everybody, is to help society, and is to really help us. And what if this system that we're in has been set up because they do genuinely think that it's the best thing for us? So there's two sides of every coin, and I like doing that at the moment. Is like, okay, let's play devil's advocate on it. I've got my beliefs on it, and I can share them, or we can go into what I think's going on. But maybe let's look at it from the other angle. And that's what I'm saying. Like, we said it outside, and I was trying to find out who said the quote, but it's strong beliefs held loosely. So have you strong beliefs? Yes, have values, and like stand up for what you believe in, but don't, as you said outside, don't wear them like a tattoo. Like, have them interchangeable and be able to change the lens and look at it from a different angle. So playing devil's advocate and looking at it from a different viewpoint is something that I've been doing recently, and then it makes me think a bit more, increases my awareness, but I do it with control so that we don't make ourselves ill again.
I've got a new saying from today's podcast. I'm going to be assertively on the fence.
That's
genuinely, I've made that up just
assertively
then.
on the fence.
As you were saying it, I'm like, I'm assertively on the fence.
Get that on a t-shirt.
Yeah, we've got a vinyl printer actually.
Oh,
so
wicked! Let's
that's
do it now.
Yeah, dude, this is brilliant. Go on.
Where were we? ACL.
Football.
Yeah. Shit.
Hello, everybody. Probably my nan. She stays around. She watches it to the end.
There's plenty of people that have turned off. I can tell you. Plenty of people that have stuck around. So it's all good.
The ones I want here, that's all I care about. So hey, you guys.
Yeah.
The football.
ACL.
Yes.
What about it?
Well, what the hell happened? Was it just a big moment on the pitch?
Yeah. So...
And then that last little bit about what sort of trauma you went through in that.
Yeah, it's a pivotal part, because I was playing, as I said, best football in my life. We had an academy team that we won the league by a canter. We smashed everyone, won the league. Best team I've ever played in my life. Had a really good coach, a guy called Paul Cox, who's gone into like professional game, but he's managing a non-league now. I think he's manager of Kettering. So he's a great coach. We had a great team, won everything, and then I played for the reserves. I was captain of the reserves of Eastwood Town, and I was playing really well for them. Won player of the season, and it was a game on a Wednesday night against Carlton Town, and the first team manager had come down and he'd said to me before that, I'm gonna probably get you in the team on Saturday for the FA Cup game. I'll be honest with you, you're probably going to be on the bench, but you'll be part of the first team setup. So I was like buzzing, like, because a few of the other academy lads had broken into the first team. I was like, well, it's great if he's looking at me. It means I'm one of the better players or whatever. And I was playing left wing, and I crossed the ball, and as I've crossed the ball, like, my foot's gone down, my hip's gone one way, my knee's gone the other, and it made like a really big pop. And I knew straight away I'd done some damage, because when I was 12, I broke my leg, and the pain was far worse than when I broke my leg. It was excruciating pain, and I just felt like my knee was locked, and I was in agony, and I was like, I've done some damage here. And I got stretchered off. Like, we had a decent crowd, like round of applause. I was like, yeah, clapping, whatever. Went in, saw the physio. This guy, physio, he's a funny old guy, but yeah, I don't think he was good, but I don't think he knew that much about kind of
what he was doing,
anatomy and whatnot. It's like magic sponge or whatever.
Oh God, that's me dad.
Yeah. And so he was like, moved it about a bit. He's like, I think you'd be fine. I think you just jarred it, whatever. And then same thing just kept happening, like what you were saying before we started recording. It was giving way on me. And so my dad was like, I've had enough of this. I'm taking you to see a specialist. So he took me to an osteopath who referred me to the knee surgeon at Derby Royal Infirmary. I went to the DRI and saw a guy there.
Who did your knee then?
Oh, God knows, can't remember. It was ages ago.
Not Mr. Gucci's. He's
God
the
knows.
man.
So yeah, I got an MRI scan, and they were like, yeah, it's bad news. It's completely grade 3, complete rupture. So spoke to the surgeon with my dad, and he's like, you got 2 options really. You never play football again, or you have ACL reconstruction. I was like, whoa, never play football again. I'm not having that. So I was just like, book me in for the thing, because it was on NHS, and
Yeah.
parents didn't have $7,000 or whatever to do it
Yeah.
private. I had to wait 6 months for my surgery. So all in all, I was out of the game for like 2 years. And anyone that knows about football or soccer, whatever we want to call it, it's very cliquey. So when I'd been out for 2 years, kind of the team was changing a little bit, restructuring. I found it difficult to break back into the team I was in. Went to a few other clubs and kind of just dropped down the levels and just ended up just playing with my mates. But it was a key time because I just thought, well, I'll get like a whatever job and then I'll play football, as I said, like picking up a few £100 a week part time, and that's what I'll do. And if I make something of it, happy days. So I had to rethink everything, and I got into football coaching. Didn't massively enjoy it. I was like babysitting kids a lot of the time and kicking ball. I didn't really vibe with it. Tried to go to the States. I got offered a scholarship to play football, but it was only a half scholarship, and again it was like $7,000 a term.
Yeah.
They said that would just be for the first year, but my parents couldn't afford that, so that kind of got knocked on the head. And then randomly I was at a dinner party and a girl said, have you considered being a PT or a personal trainer? It's like, I've never been in a gym in my life other than to like be on the rowing machine or the treadmill, never stepped foot in a gym. She was like, oh, you might really enjoy it. So I did an intensive gym instructor qualification.
Why did she suggest that?
Just because she heard me, because I was a bit disillusioned with what I was doing. She
Right.
heard me saying, oh, I've tried to get out to America twice coaching, and for whatever, I won't go into that now, but for whatever reason that didn't work out. And then I tried to get a scholarship and that didn't work out. So it's like, that's the hat trick of bad things happen in threes. And I think she heard it and she said, like, why don't you be a PT? So I did my gym instructor qualification, got a job at Virgin Active in 2008, and then the rest is history, really. So it was a pivotal time because it just shaped my whole career for the last 13 years. That one injury, I wouldn't be sat here, or I wouldn't own my own gym, or I wouldn't have had my own PT business, or I wouldn't have had a successful clientele at Virgin if it wasn't for that injury. Wow. It was a catalytic event, like it.
Is that your gym then? You own that
gym?
My
gym, yeah.
Wow.
Kenetik Fitness, yeah. So I own it with my wife, Sarah.
It's amazing.
It didn't start off like that though, but that's a whole nother podcast. But that's a book. The gym's a book. The gym is a book, yeah. So I've had that for it'll be 5 years in January, but that's a book, and that's probably had more low points than high points, and I'll just be honest and open with people and say that now, that me owning the gym has probably had more low points than high points. But I wouldn't have changed it for anything because it's taught me so many lessons about business, but more importantly, so many lessons about myself, and also the strength of mine and Sarah's relationship. Like, Sarah is without doubt my soulmate. She is my life partner. She's my wife. We're business partners. We're in everything together. So it's taught me a lot about that as well. So I wouldn't have changed it for anything. But here's the key thing, and we'll just loop it back to doing the work again. Mayans, yeah. Loop it back to ancient history. Back to working on yourself. Since 2015, since this moment in Sedona, since when everything shifted and I found spirituality, and I knew that I needed to start doing the work on myself on all levels, on mental, physical and spiritual levels. When I started doing that, so if I hadn't been doing that, if I hadn't been working on myself on all levels, I 1,000,000% would have had a mental breakdown in probably about the back end of 2017, beginning of 2018. I would have 100% had a breakdown, a proper breakdown. I would have. And I probably would have had depression, and I probably would have maybe contemplated something even worse, because it was the low. But because I'd done all this work, and because I knew what the purpose of why I was doing it was, and because I had this strong relationship with Sarah, and because I was healthy in my mind, in my body, and I was starting to like develop this spiritual essence as well, I just rode it like Kelly Slater on the waves, like surfing across the waves. I just went with it and rode it, handled it all with grace and ease. And I don't think probably myself and Sarah have ever given ourselves ourselves credit for this, is that we did a wicked job. We could have caved, we could have crumbled, could have had a breakdown, and we didn't.
Wow.
And we're here to
strong as fuck.
Yeah, strong as fuck to tell the tale, so to speak.
Yeah.
And this is gonna sound it might sound a bit throwaway, but this is through development of myself. I've detached from the outcome of the gym. So if the gym takes off and it's like amazing and it's like the go-to place to train in Nottingham and everyone's talking about it, happy days. If we have to liquidate it and it goes under, happy days.
Yeah.
It is what it is, and it'll happen how it's meant to happen, and it will be what it's meant to be.
And you're not living in fear.
And I'm not living in fear. And this goes back to what you said earlier, is we place all this emphasis on all these shiny objects, all these things, all this career, what society says we should have, 2.4 children, all of this fucking bullshit, and it is bullshit. Don't get me wrong, it's useful stuff, and you want to have nice things. I want to have nice things. I'm sitting here in a nice jacket or whatever.
Yes, you are.
Yeah, you want nice things, but they don't mean anything. And without going down that route, the psychedelics have shown me that.
Yeah.
In particularly
that is another podcast.
In particularly psilocybin mushrooms have showed me that it doesn't matter. All that matters is you. All that matters is being.
They'll do that to you.
Yeah, and love is another. And that gets tossed around, but just love yourself, love your fellow human being, and love nature, and stop shitting on it, or stop shitting on yourself, stop shitting on your fellow human being, and stop shitting on nature, and then again we'll raise up.
Yeah. Because this was gonna end in a musical.
Yeah, and we will, because that's what I truly believe. And people might listen to this thing, don't know what I'm talking about, and that's cool as well. It's all good,
mate.
Everything is blessed, man.
I mean,
life's a blessing.
If you're gonna end a podcast, that's the way to do it. Just bloody love one another, you idiots.
Exactly.
Dude.
Peace and love, man. I say it on the end of all of my videos, all of my podcasts. Peace and love. And I do the peace sign like this because I'm not about separation. Well, I'm about togetherness.
First of all, tell everybody where they can see all your podcast, everything you're about, your gym, and everything like that, and then you'll see how I end my podcast.
Yeah. So currently, this may change, but currently you can check out about the gym via kenetikfitness.co.uk, and Kinetik stylized, so it's KINETIK. So Kenetik with a K on the end rather than C. Kenetik Fitness, spelled like fitness.co.uk. You can find the podcast on everything: Spotify, Apple, the whole lot, YouTube, by just searching for the Kenetik Fitness Show. So it's like named after the gym, the Kenetik Fitness Show. And then you can find me on every single social media platform currently under Ali West Coach. That might change, but if you search for Ali West, you'll find me. ALIWEST, like the direction, and then Coach, like coach. That's on everything: LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram.
You've done that before, haven't you?
Yeah.
That was absolute. That was like a poem. Perfect. You'd hit it, mate. Thank you so much for being here. I've really enjoyed this podcast.
It's been a blessing. It's probably I won't BS you, like probably the best one I've done.
Dude, I'm gonna have to go sit down and have a meditation about this podcast because it's been stunningly good, and I feel so happy that you've come into my life, and I really mean that. So, Alex, who set this up,
shout out to her.
Yeah, genuine thank you, because he's an amazing human, and I'm so happy you're part of this journey now, like quite literally. So this is how I end it. Guys, you've been a part of the Old Farm Bus, Back of the Bus Sessions podcast. I always leave with yes. Be nice to one another, you beautiful buggers. See you later. Have a good day. Thanks for being here.